Hello again, and welcome back to Two Guys, One Cup. And this is the One Cup. We don't emphasise this enough. The premise of the show is that we are sharing a paint washing cup, and I don't think we've really put emphasis on that. So, this is the cup. This one little cup there. We'll rinse our paintbrush now. We've got other water, but that's for mixing tones.
I'm really proud of myself. I actually started the stream.
So Alex started the stream today. We're learning OBS, and
I didn't fuck it up.
No, you did absolutely well doing everything I told you to do. So you followed instructions like a good, loyal Space Marine.
Good.
Speaking of loyal Space Marines...
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. We're going to introduce... Hi, I'm Ian the DragonBorn Bard, and you're watching DragonBorn Industries. This is Two Guys, One Cup, and this is my friend, Alex. Alex, how are you? Who are you? Go.
Where are we? I'm Alex. I'm very hot. We've got my shoes off at the moment. What was the next one? Where are we?
You said where are we?
Your studio.
Yeah, we are. What's ours, really?
Yeah.
You're part of the group. Part of the ship, part of the crew.
Yeah.
That's the wrong law. So, obviously so far, this is episode 3 of what we hope to be a long-running series on Warhammer 40k. And we've covered, in the first episode, we went over like a very brief overview of the timeline from like 8,000 years pre-us.
I think it was before that. I think it was like 65 million.
Oh, we did that in the second one. Yeah. But either way, 65 millions pre-2023, because the 40k verse is set in our universe in the grim darkness of the far future, in the 41st millennium. Hence, Warhammer 40,000. I think I did like 5 O's there. I don't know.
Cool. Sorry.
Whatever.
Yeah, go on.
You know? So we covered the brief overview of the timeline in the first episode, and then we started looking at the Imperium, which is the Imperium of Man. So this is humanity as a whole, really, and why Space Marines are there. And we looked at the old ones, and we went to like what we thought came about, and then we really kind of dove into who the Emperor is and what his plan was. And he had this narrow path. Once humanity had all gone to shit, just go, right, we're going to do X, Y, and Z and get these into the walkways. It all fucked up. Everything went to shit at the end of the 31st millennium, I think you said it was. And then it's like 10,000 years. Or the end.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and then
so
it's
the
like
heresy ends 31st millennium, roughly 30th, maybe.
And, as Alex pointed out to friends who are watching this, there are going to be heresy spoilers.
Yeah, so one thing I just completely regurgitated the Horus Heresy last week. Apologies for any spoilers, but there's a warning.
Nick, you're going to have heard it anyway.
Yeah.
So if you are going to read the heresy, come on! It's like, come on! It's like if you haven't seen A New Hope yet from Star Wars.
I know, right?
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Because you know that there are loyalists and non-loyalists. You know there's Chaos Space Marines. You just don't know what Chaos and all that's about. And you know that there are...
like the end of Horus Heresy, it's not published yet, but in the current narrative, a lot of the end of the heresy is the myth.
And we're going to talk about that today because we titled the episode The Emperor's Plan B.
Yeah.
And the reason we titled it that is because we want to start talking about the theories that now sit around the Imperium of Man, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at like the threats to the Imperium of Man and what the Emperor, the God Emperor now must do to protect mankind now that the Webway plan is shattered to oblivion. So I guess looking at...
Sorry,
after you. Awkward pause.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Go on.
No, that's fine.
I'm going to try my best because a lot of this, what we're about to talk about, is very much based on the theories, fan theories, that kind of thing. Very, very loose information through being filtered down through the books and stuff like that. So yeah, whatever we discuss today may be true, it may not be true. It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this is like, it goes back to people like Luton who say, like, you know, everything's canon until it's not, basically. And although we know what you told me from the books and what he's talked about in his videos and what the other guys from the Adeptus Ridiculous talk about, we know that, like, this is all the books are taken from a perspective of the characters within it. It's not like an overview of a god's eye looking down being like, this is what happened. It's like, they think this, and we're looking at, like, testimonials almost.
Yeah, and, like, because of that, another cool thing as well is the universe is so massive. Like, the scale of 40k is so big. Even though you're seeing it from a perspective of 1 or 2 characters at a time, you can have your own interpretation.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're going to be going on to today, because, hey, Dragon Skull, how you doing? Hey, Dan Track as well. Great to see you there in chat. Hope everyone is all good. We're just saying that, so we're going to talk about what we've decided to call the Emperor's Plan B. And this is, I I guess to bring it back to where we're going with this is that now that the Webways plan's been shattered, and if you don't know what the Webways are and stuff, we overviewed it last week in the episode 2, which is the Emperor's plan, and this is the Emperor's plan B. So now that the Emperor is trapped on the throne, he can't communicate. There is no more Webway plan, and over the next 10,000 years, humanity is sort of trying to follow what he left behind, while also becoming hyper-religious about the Emperor being a god.
And it's like that sort of problematic thing of people having their own interpretations of what the Emperor is saying, wanting, and that leads to all sorts of horrible bullshit.
So, and I think that, like, we say that, like, to reference that to the real world.
No, I've got two of the same cups. I knew I was going to do this at some point, but that's the water cup, that's the coffee cup. So, yeah, but I'm going to fuck it up at some point.
I will drink from the paint cup at some point, because I always drink from paint cups for some reason.
It's good shit.
really, really acrylic-y. And I think that he's trapped on the throne, he can't communicate, and what you say about, like, interpretation, we see that today in a lot of other religions as well. So, like, I'm not going to, like, name religions or anything like that, but, people can misinterpret a holy text, and, it's Star Wars, a prophecy, if read misinterpreted, dangerous could be, or if misread, dangerous could be, about Anakin being the chosen one. And that's sort of what's happening. So, like, the Emperor had a plan, and he had the Primarchs, and he was like, this is it, go forward, this is the word, now. I'm dead, I'm not dead, I can't communicate what I want with you, because I'm just trying to protect you at the moment. So everybody else then starts going, well, he wanted this, and people are going to be, like, abusing that power. Other people are going to be, like, heretical on it. Other people are going to be so... No, it must be black and white, this is what it is. Where, like, the ecclesiarchy and the inquisitors, I guess, from what you were telling me. So I guess we start where we left off.
Yeah, so the next stage of, I guess, the 40k story, after the heresy, is an era called the Scouring. And what Scouring is... So the Emperor has been... Well, he's now trapped on the throne. He can't heal himself.
It's all good to hear. While you're talking, I'm going to knock this one to the other camera. Nice. And then, because we're going to paint while we're talking about this. We're already not painting. So the Scouring. So this is directly after the Emperor's trapped on the throne.
Pretty much. So the Scouring is... so Chaos has just been shafted in the final events of the Horus Heresy. So at the moment, Chaos is kind of fleeing back to the Eye of Terror. We didn't actually talk about the Eye of Terror.
I think we'll get... do you want to do that now?
It'd be an easy... So the Eye of Terror, remember when we spoke about the birth of Slaanesh, when the fall of the Eldar happened?
Yes.
So this event, the birth of this god, was so cataclysmic that it actually tore a hole in space and time.
Like a big rip that's constantly there.
Big rip that's constantly there, and that's where Slaanesh was birthed. And this rip...
Space vagina.
It's basically a portal into the warp. So you can traverse into this Eye of Terror, and then you will then be in the warp. So around the Eye of Terror is all manner of horrible, horrible shit. Planets who are in that location rain blood. Reality is just fucked up. And of course Chaos, after the events of the Horus Heresy, they fled back to the Eye of Terror.
So this is all the traitor legions. This is like everybody who was like on Horus's side was like, oh fuck!
Yeah, basically.
And they all ran back into the warp.
Yeah. This Scouring is the Imperium regaining lost ground, whilst taking out fleeing Chaos forces. And I don't know how long this goes on for. I think Robute Guilliman has a big leading part in this.
And who is Robute Guilliman?
He is the Primarch of the Ultramarines.
Cool, we'll stop there. We'll talk about him on a different episode.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. So, during the Scouring, I'm not quite sure what happens. I think this is probably the next... I hope this is the next series that Games Workshop will write.
So is this an interpretation where, like, there's a period of time where we know it happens, but we don't know exactly what happens?
Yeah.
Cool.
So, at this point, and I can't go into too much details because, to be honest, I just don't know. Some Primarchs go missing.
And we don't know why that is.
We don't know why that is. A lot of the traitor Primarchs are still around.
Put my phone on silent.
Oh yeah.
Having me going off all the time.
Yeah.
So the traitor Primarchs...
yeah, a lot of them are still around. some of them, taken out. We won't go into detail as to who.
Yeah, because I think we're going to cover the Primarchs
in a separate,
like one after the other, and hopefully like try and get them done in like. And it's going to be brief overview to begin with until people start saying, "Do more of this," and then I'm like, "Right, Alex, go get a book."
Yeah. A lot of it starts with like Chaos being pursued by loyalist Primarchs, and then Primarchs go into the Eye of Terror. Some go missing in the Webway. We just don't quite know the full details of it yet, but by and large, a lot of the traitor Primarchs are still around doing
traitorous things.
Yeah, 10,000 years later.
And that's because I guess like Chaos sort of needs them to act out, and they need to be.
They're Chaos demon. Chaos demons.
Yeah, I guess like they become like powerful.
Yeah,
demigods of Chaos.
They're favored by these ruinous powers, so they have access to even more
power than they had before.
Yeah, nasty power.
But it's warped by their particular Chaos god.
Yes. Yeah.
So like Nurgle is like all disease and rot. Khorne is like destruction and blood. Slaanesh is
pleasures, excess, and
torture. And
Tzeentch is
that's the one.
Knowledge and trickery, maybe.
Yeah, because that's Magnus's one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and we'll go into those further. So they go running. Some Primarchs go missing, and I guess so. What is the scouring apart from that? Is it just them trying to clear all Chaos forces from humanity?
Yeah.
Basically, and this is where like it's almost like purging. The bad blood, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And like because they don't have the Emperor to go on, so Robute Guilliman, who is the Primarch of the Ultramarines, the most known faction of.
So the reason
40K.
the reason he takes in control is because we talked about each Primarchs have their own unique abilities.
Yes.
Robute Guilliman is basically an empire builder, so he has this extraordinary superhuman gift of, I guess, like multitasking, and planning and administration, that kind of thing. So he can send fleets one end of a system while simultaneously trying to carry out an objective over in this system. He's just
a master tactician. I thought that was Horus's thing.
I guess a little bit, yeah, but I think Horus had more sort of like charisma, whereas Guilliman sort of like more your bookkeeper sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, where I was going with this. Oh, we didn't actually. So
what else have we missed?
Yeah.
So we were talking about the Eye of Terror, though.
That's right. Yeah. So that's where I was getting at. So most of the Chaos forces flee loyalist forces, and they head back into the Eye of Terror, basically the warp.
Yeah.
And then over the next 10,000 years, in a nutshell, they're launching crusades from the Eye of Terror. They're called the Black Crusades.
And this is Chaos trying to like come back out and like kind of like the Emperor did when he went across crusading to bring humanity back together. This is Chaos like, right, we're going to try and gain a planet here. We're going to try and gain a foothold here, kill this planet and do that.
Yeah. And we didn't actually. So the Imperium of Man is an empire of approximately 1 million worlds. So, and that's not even close to the entirety of the galaxy. So we talked about the golden age of man. Trade routes collapsing. A lot of the known planets, or the known imperial planets, is because we've traversed there in the past. We know.
And we've gained that knowledge back.
Yeah. Much of the galaxy is unexplored. So there's probably whole human civilizations out there yet to be uncovered.
And this is where we get to Votan, isn't it? And we'll talk about that. We'll get to that in another stream. Because this is how they can bring in, it's canon until it's not. Where you can bring in like new factions, new things. Because obviously like the Heresy books have been going for so long, and then we ended up with Tau, we ended up with the Votan back. And obviously they weren't in the original source books, they were just like bought in as extra by these minis. Like I'm doing. I really like the Tau, so I'm like, well, that's what I'm doing. And then they needed some story to fit in with the people who play campaigns and whatnot.
So the Emperor now stuck. And by the way, the Emperor is being sustained in a way, even though his psychic, I guess potency, I keep using that word, is still amplified within the warp by means of, well, his own abilities and the Golden Throne. So remember we spoke about Malkador giving him his essence in his final.
I know where this is going because I was going to bring this up in a bit, so you crack on.
So the Emperor has to be sustained still. So in order to keep his psychic potency alive, I guess, he needs to be alive to some extent in his physical form.
And how do you keep a dead corpse with psychic abilities alive?
So, last week we talked about blanks.
Yes.
These pariah genes. It's basically an elite all-female fighting force because this pariah gene only comes about in women, basically. And this is extremely rare. This is 1 in a billion.
Yeah.
But this is the Imperium of Man, so that's untold trillions of people.
Yeah, because this is the other things that we need to get to later on in the series is like the sheer numbers of humanity, like their greatest asset or something is the sheer amount of numbers of people they are willing to throw.
Yeah, the meat grinder.
Yeah, into the meat grinder.
Yeah. So these blanks, they did this during the Horus Heresy. So they're basically your witch hunters. So they will go after, I believe it's called unsanctioned psychers or rogue psychers or even Xenos psychers, if they pose a threat, which they probably always do. And they traverse the galaxy or traverse the Imperium by means of the black ships. And their job is to track down these unsanctioned psychers, so like a witch hunt, if you will. They then bring these psychers back to Terra by means of these black ships and use them as batteries to power the Golden Throne.
So essentially they're getting people who have these magic abilities, their psychic potency, and feeding them to the Emperor's psychic potency so that he doesn't die, basically.
Yeah, they are sacrificed. They are sucked of all their psychic energy.
Which kills them.
And I think it's like something like 1,000 a day.
So,
something like that.
We are looking at human sacrifice en masse.
Yeah.
Which we're talking like old gods of Earth. Throw people in a volcano to sacrifice them to the gods.
And to be honest, like, not everyone is unwilling. A lot of these people see it as like a means of pilgrimage. This is the ultimate honor sort of thing. A lot of people don't think that way, so they are
thrown in.
Yeah, they're kidnapped. They're taken away from their home systems. Don't really know what's going on, and then before they know it, they're being hooked up to this giga machine, and they're just getting the soul sucked out of them in order to keep the Emperor alive to an extent. Yeah,
which is kind of godly. If you think about he needs your power. You're going to start especially after 10,000 years of not having direct word from him. You're going to be like, well, God needs another sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so thousands a day is crazy.
Thousands a day. And these black ships are going around all the time, and these oh god, the Sisters of Silence is there. Not to be confused with the Sisters of Battle. We'll get to those one day.
Yes, we will.
The Sisters of Silence are these pariah gene warriors, and they look fucking cool. They're basically they've got ornate power armor, but because they're baseline humans, it's not like a Space Marine chunky.
Yeah.
But they've got these ornate.
You see them in a
suits
lot
of armor. Yeah, and they carry around these double-handed swords. They're basically like your witch hunter executioners.
Oh, that's cool.
And because they take an oath of silence, so they communicate using a unique sign language and a series of clicks through their vox. Vox is like a sort of intercom, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. So a walkie-talkie or something like that. Radio is known as a vox in the Imperium.
Nice. I think we'll do a whole thing on technology and stuff like that at a different time.
Yeah.
So these, because I guess we need to bring it back to the Eye of Terror, really.
Yeah.
Do they go into the Eye of Terror? Do they bring people back from there, or is it
the reason I brought up the Eye of Terror is because some of the Primarchs are known to have gone into the Eye of Terror
and not come back,
in pursuit of these Chaos forces, or some theories have speculated that one or two Primarchs go in to search for a cure for the Emperor, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Don't really know why they went in there, but it's largely believed to an objective.
So are these Primarchs that have chapters that you can buy now?
Yes.
As minis?
I think Lehman Russ, Primarch of the Space Wolves, is known to have gone into the Eye of Terror in pursuit of a cure for the Emperor. Whatever that means, we don't know, because
it's interpreted.
It's
interpreted.
That's right. Yeah.
We've got English in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So obviously we know that the Lion is just released, which is the Dark Angel's one. So we might see more Primarchs coming to the table, especially now that we have the Horus Heresy series minis.
Yeah.
30k.
Don't know how they'll do it. I don't know if they'll do every Loyalist Primarch, but by and large, I think the thing now is to bring loyalist Primarchs back to the narrative,
Yeah.
which is already happening.
But we still got a book to wait for, basically.
Yeah. 9th edition came out, 2-3 years ago, maybe more, and that was Roboute Guilliman resurrected because he was, spoilers, because he was wounded, but now he's been resurrected because he was trapped in a stasis chamber for thousands of years. And
Cool. Well, again, we'll get to that one
Yeah.
at a separate time.
So,
So what happens now then? Like, the Eye of Terror is there. It's spewing chaos into the real space, into our reality, and the Emperor's not around. He's trying. Well, he is around. He's just trying to protect Earth from chaos coming in through the webways, and is holding those at bay. And he can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So when he had this master plan to bring people into the webway, and that's now gone.
yeah.
What happens? Because he's obviously given his word that he wants humanity to survive, and that they've been trying to basically be the top race for so long.
Yeah.
What happens when all of the influence, all of the direct word from God, essentially stops?
I guess this is where you start getting different different factions of the Imperium sort of having their own voice or interpretation of events or what this means. I don't really know what I'm getting at, but
I do. It means that, like, you know, they're following the word of God, but they're doing it in their own way.
that's right.
You know, I can say to you, you know, X, Y, Z, and you take it one way, but I say the exact same to somebody else. They can take it differently.
Yeah. So now you start getting things, and there's several eras during this time between the 30th millennium or the 31st millennium and the 41st millennium, where you've got things like ecclesiastical factions.
Cool. So this is like the Sisters of Battle.
Yeah.
And there's a whole Imperial Inquisitor, Inquisition faction or something.
Yep.
So what is the ecclesiarchy?
So the ecclesiarchy is a well, it kind of, I think, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to get this correct, but I think it covers several factions. One of the most notable factions is the Sisters of Battle, or the Sisterhood as it's called. This is separate to the Sisters of Silence. The Adeptus Sororitas. And what they are
Beta Kappa Zeta! Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah. It's like nuns in power armor, I guess is the best way to describe them. So they are fanatical followers of the Emperor as a god. It is their imperial creed. The imperial creed is all over the galaxy, but they take this very seriously.
So this is like religion now.
Yeah.
So when I say, like, what is the ecclesiarchy, I guess I'm saying as well, like, not just its factions, but, like, this is the hyper-religion of the Imperium of Man.
Yeah.
This is like all of the churchgoers, all of the people who are like, no, the Emperor is fucking God.
Yeah.
And if you try and say anything otherwise, we're going to kill you.
Yeah, so this is where, this is the opposite to the Emperor's original idea of the Imperium.
Yeah.
Because this is now full-blown religion in his name. And like you say, if you don't believe in the Emperor as a holy divinity, you're getting set aflame.
Yeah, and this is because they've interpreted the will of the Emperor thing through their views and their interpretations that he is God.
Yeah.
And that, like, if you don't follow this, he's trying to save humanity, you're then a detriment to humanity.
Yeah.
Heresy.
That's
you're
right.
dead. And this is, you know, because of Horus, everyone's like, heresy, 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 heresy leads to chaos.
That's right, yeah. So the Imperium, now knowing full well what chaos is, they are rooting this shit out. They want no risk to the Imperium, and so any hint of, I guess, heresy or treachery or xenos, we talked about the human race now being super xenophobic, because alien races, you know, they're impure, that kind of thing.
Well, they're not human.
They're not human. It's witch hunts all on a galaxy-spanning.
And it's their job, basically. It's not just a case of keeping the peace in the name of the Emperor. They literally hunt down people who do not believe him to be God.
That's right.
And kill them.
So you have the Inquisition, which is the main sort of... So I should probably lean forward, I'm not really showing what I'm painting. The Inquisition is separated into 3 classifications, I guess. There's the
Order of the Xenos.
That's it. Order of the Xenos, which is going after your aliens.
So I'll just quickly pull some of that information out of you.
Yeah.
When we say going after your aliens, we mean like they quite literally hunt down any race that isn't human that could have interacted with humanity or not.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So you like everything from like a Tithe planet where it's like gene stealers and stuff like that, where they're like Tyranids are starting to get in through like mutations, or orcs are landing on a planet, or people who have met the Tau, and the Tau are like, hey, you've been abandoned for so long, let's give you a load of stuff, so you join the Tau Empire.
Yeah.
And the Inquisition's like, you've spoken to an alien, even if you turn them
virus
down.
bomb.
Yeah. And so we're talking like, whereas even Horus didn't want to like virus bomb an entire planet, these guys are like, you've spoken to one person on one planet and spoken to an alien, fucking destroy the planet.
Exterminatus. So Exterminatus is the order given to kill a planet and its entire populace.
And they have that power.
They absolutely have that power. There's this really cool quote. You know the Eisenhorn series?
No.
Well, the Eisenhorn series is it's mainly a trilogy, and it's this Inquisitor, and it goes through Xenos and things. One of his badass quotes is he's facing this enemy, and they're not playing ball, and he basically says, what does he say?
Dragon School Studios thinks it's nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Exactly. My patience is limited, unlike my authority. So yeah, he has free reign to do whatever the fuck he wants.
And this is because he has this power that's like, okay, I'm acting in the name of the Emperor.
Yeah.
Because it's hyper-religion, I can just persecute anybody if I think they're against the Emperor. Even if I'm wrong. Or even if they're like, sorry, or even if they want penance or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like,
they're gone.
See you later.
Flames.
So that's one part of the ecclesiarchy, is part of the Inquisition.
Yeah.
Then we've got this other hyper-religious sect, which is the Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Sororitas.
Yep.
Who else is part of the ecclesiarchy? So basically, the Church of the Emperor.
I guess everyone is to an extent. I'm gonna miss.
And remember, if he misses anything, you get his home address.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss. I guess the next thing is maybe.
I'm a 96.
The Grey Knights are these sort of super potent psychers, but they're space marines. They work very much in line with the Order Magos, which is like going after like chaos and things like that. Demon hunters.
Yeah.
I guess. They are a big part of the Inquisition, or work alongside the Inquisition at least.
Because the Inquisition even has powers to like kill space marines and like go and be like, no, you've been near chaos, and even though you're not touched by it, you're dead.
This is another thing, like Sisters of Battle, Adeptus Sororitas, they're very often mistrusting of space marines because they know space marines can be corrupted.
Oh, yes.
But I don't think they're so zealous in their religion. I don't think there's been an account of a Sister of Battle being corrupted by chaos.
Oh, wow, so they're almost immune to the forces of chaos.
I guess
because of their hyper-religion.
Yeah.
That's cool.
This is where I guess we're going to go into what sort of the Emperor does.
So, yeah, and I think because we need to bring it back to the Plan B, which is what this episode is about. So, the ecclesiarchy is obviously important, and I guess that will become apparent as you describe more, and because I think I know where you want to go with this, which is kind of like, because there's a lot of the show, by the way, to everyone, is going to be us talking about certain aspects of the Imperium, and then hopefully at some point the penny drops for different things, going, oh, and this crosses here and that crosses there, and that's sort of how I began to understand the 40k verse, and my understanding of it is nothing compared to yours.
Well, even I struggle.
And and yours is nothing compared
amateur
to...
at best,
but it's still fun. That's it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about like interpretation and stuff like that. But I lose my train of thought.
So we talk about the Sisters of Battle. Because they are worshipping the Emperor so fanatically. Remember we talked about the Emperor now having because he's being worshipped as a god, he's now jacked up in the warp. Yeah,
so all of that worship is giving him extra power.
Yeah, even though that's not what he wanted, that's what he's got now. Yeah. So,
and he can't stop doing that or else he'll die.
No, basically.
And humanity will then die because he can't stop the chaos.
Because his presence in the warp won't be as powerful and
to stop chaos coming through.
Yeah, so these Sisters of Battle, they utilise their main weapon is faith. This is where it starts getting a bit weird, because faith is power in the current narrative, 41st millennium, and faith is basically like things like miracles, things like that. It's basically the warp, but it's channeled through the Emperor's divinity. So
we believe.
So we believe. So you've got things like Saint Celestine, who is a figure within the Sisters of Silence, Sisters of Battle. Sorry.
And like the word saint.
Yeah, saints, things like that.
Is a rank now, basically.
Yeah, she is an emperor, a demon of the Emperor, in that she has angelic wings that are made of sorcery, basically warp stuff. But because she's channeling her divinity or her devotion to the Emperor, it manifests in a different way. So it's basically the faith in the Emperor is utilized as a weapon to perform miracles.
Yeah, and I suppose that shows the rest of humanity, like, look at this member of the church who worships and loves the Emperor more than the rest of you.
Yeah.
Look at the gift she has been given.
Yeah.
And then, she has this magic and this ability that nobody else has, and people are like, okay, yeah, the Emperor's a god.
Yeah.
And we then fall folly again to people believing what the Emperor didn't want them to believe in the first place.
Yeah. So it's so this goes on, for a good 10,000. I don't know what this. I think it's the age of apostasy is when the Sisters of Battle come in, and that's around about the 35th millennium, maybe. This is where I start getting a bit hazy with my history, dates and things like that.
So I guess at this point it's just a case of humanity trying to survive.
Yeah.
Now. It's not a case of get to the webways, we'll be safe in there from chaos.
Yeah.
Now it's just the Emperor needs to protect us. We need to give the Emperor power because the other Xenos are coming.
Yeah.
So I guess we talk about the other Xenos. Who are the threats to the Imperium of Man?
So I guess we've touched on a few races: the Dark Eldar, the Eldar. I guess one of the biggest threats of the current narrative, the Tyrannids, which is what I'm painting.
So you say Tyranids, I say Tyranids. Why?
It doesn't really matter. But
No, it matters. Why?
Okay. Well, the Tyranids were first discovered by the Imperium on a planet called Tyran, and this was known as a lush garden world of super fauna, ocean creatures, megafauna, that kind of stuff, flora, just a lush garden and ocean world, at least in the Imperial records. Several centuries later, exploratory fleets, they traverse to this planet again, and it is just a husk of a rock, stripped of all organic material.
Almost like Exterminatus is taking place.
Yeah, completely stripped. And obviously at this point the Imperium is just a bureaucratic shit heap. They just think, weird, and move on, and they don't really pay attention to it. It's just one of those phenomenons that's probably been encountered before.
Millions of worlds, I guess.
Millions
we
of
just
worlds.
chalk this one up to...
Sure. Somebody sneezed,
Yeah, novelty.
Whatever. Yeah. And then it starts transpiring that something is doing this to planets on system-wide basis, like several systems. People begin to lose contact, and this is the first account of the Imperium's contact with this Xenos species called the Tyranids. Because they was discovered on Tyran, or this phenomena was first discovered on Tyran, they became known as the Tyranids. And that was just their, their...
name for it at the time.
Yeah,
just,
distinction, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, and I guess we talk about what happened there, because for those of you who have seen the minis, I got into Warhammer as a teenager for a bit, and I went to the, time to see what we're painting. So Alex, actually, if you grab the mouse and hit the PTZ, so you see the eyeball that's next to PTZ that says map close, down.
Oh God, I'm terrible at this.
That's right, go up one.
Yep.
Right, there's an eyeball that's crossed out, hit that. Cool, now I'll bring up the PTZ camera. If you drop one of your minis onto plate there.
Oh, I can actually see this plate, but there you go.
And hopefully that'll focus in this area.
Yeah.
So, what is that?
That is a Tyrannid brood lord.
So, I got into Warhammer as a teenager for a little bit, and Tyranids for me, and I'm going to keep calling them Tyranids, you can call them Tyranids, you can call them whatever you want.
To be honest, I do call them Tyranids from time to time as well.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
It's a game!
Yeah.
I liked them because they were the Xenomorphs. I liked them because, whereas all my friends were like, Space Marines, Superhumans, Power Armor, I was like, these. Yeah. These are so cool, and they're gruesome, and they just... I loved Ridley Scott, and I loved Alien, and for me, they were that. However, they're pretty nasty, aren't they?
Yeah.
I would say more so than Xenomorphs.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess take us through what the Tyranids are, and what they do to planets to leave them as a husk with no organic matter.
So they...
thanks, Craig. That's...
cheers, mate.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We'll go through how we're painting them up shortly, but yeah. If you click the that same eyeball again, it'll then go back to the original camera. There you go.
Great.
That's how you use OBS.
Oh my god, I'm streaming.
Yeah. Give them a round of applause, everybody. Click the button.
We lost 6 views.
We've been cancelled.
Yeah, where was it going? Yeah, so the Tyranids, their origins are unknown because they are they're not from our galaxy. They're from outside our galaxy. And they are...
Cheers, Fluffy.
Who's this?
You got a round of applause.
Hello. Yeah. Completely lost myself.
The Tyranids are not from this galaxy.
Not from this galaxy.
So when we talk about the rest of the Xenos, they are all from within our galaxy.
Yeah.
Within, I guess, is it the Milky Way?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all from within the Milky Way.
Yeah.
And they're not.
No.
They're extraterrestrial.
So think of them in terms of a virus, where they will quite literally, move from one system to the next, stripping, and I mean stripping, planets of their biomass in order to add to their numbers.
So they're essentially eating other organic things to then
devour. They're also known as the Great Devourer, is another name for their species. Because that's what they do. They devour a planet of all its organic materials, whether that's people, plants, animals, soil.
It's all gone.
Sometimes even minerals. You know, you get like things like calcium and things like that. Not calcium, carbon.
So they look pretty brainless. They look like they're just beasts that are just savage people when they see them, not like thinking, conquering beings. I mean, how does a virus, if we look at them like that, get from one planet to another to suck it dry of all of its essence?
So, they are controlled by, we don't know what it is, but it's something known as the hive mind. And this hive mind is able to communicate with each and every creature, I guess, organism within this Tyranid force, tells it what to do, almost like on an insectoid level. And this...
I think that's probably the best way of describing it.
Yeah. And this consciousness, whatever this is, this hive mind, is beyond ancient as time itself.
As the old ones, maybe.
Perhaps, yeah, we don't know. And this hive mind is able to... it becomes like... When a Tyranid fleet enters a system...
And I will bring you back to that in a minute, so carry on.
Okay. When the Tyranid fleet enters a system, something happens. It's called a shadow in the warp. And what that does is blocks things like psychic abilities, like astropathic communication. We didn't really talk about that, but...
We're going to be getting to that, don't worry.
Humans are able to
It's a comms jammer.
Yeah. Comms jammer. Complete and utter comms jammer. And because these planets can't communicate, they can't ask for help. So...
Nobody knows what's going on.
Nobody knows what's going on. So then that's why you come to this planet and it's just a barren wasteland and it's like, we haven't heard anything. But there should have been an Imperial colony here. Because it's that kind of thing.
There was one that you told me about, and it was... And I'm a big fan of the Imperial Guard because they are so shit. They are just humans after humans thrown at things. They have like the weakest guns. They don't really have any armor. They're not in power armor. They're just your baseline human with a las cannon, which is like the most basic rifle thrown at enemies en masse. And it's hoping that numbers will overwhelm. But the Tyranids are doing the same thing. It's numbers overwhelm.
And they are... Not only are they killing and devouring everything, they are using their numbers to jam defense systems
They climb into a gun basically to stop it from working.
Yeah. And these Tyranids, they adapt very rapidly on a sort of biological level. If they can't get past a certain defense, they will adapt then and there, and this hive fleet will spew out new organisms. There's one account of a Tyranid invasion happening to something. I think it was it's either like a forge world or a hive world.
And we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. So imagine like one planet, its ocean is just a toxic slime.
Because it's got one job, and it's to pump out
bullets,
guns, something.
So nothing can survive in this liquid. There's one account of the Imperial colony utilising this fact as a defence. So nothing would come out alive of this sludge. So it's like a sort of parameter, like a defensive parameter. Like, well, we know we can't come from there, so we'll focus on this sort of thing. Within an hour or two, these Tyranids are pouring out of this toxic sludge because they're able to adapt so quickly.
Yeah.
It's, pretty frightening stuff.
And I'm going to bring you to the Imperial Guard one that I was on about. Because, like, we say that, like...
Oh, that's your
there's Nightbot. There's an account where the Imperial Guard, basically, I don't know if it was Tyran or what, basically, they're like, oh shit, what the fuck, we can't ask for help. We've got all this technology, like, to communicate, and we can't get a message out. We need to leave something behind, basically a black box.
Yeah.
And this one Imperial Guardsman, because it was like my favourite story that he told me, that like he's like just trying to get this thing into a bunker that's like not organic, so that he can then like somebody can come across this husk of a planet whenever they drop out of the warp.
That's I completely forgot about that. So yeah, these some of these Imperial planets, they have basically a black box flight recorder, but on a sort of
planetary scale.
So,
and this is like one of the first accounts of like, holy shit, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
This is what they are.
So they come across, like, Imperial forces come across this stripped planet. They don't know what the fuck is going on. Buried deep in the Earth's crust, or the planet's crust, they find the records of what happened, and they're able to go, oh shit, this was a Tyranid invasion.
And that's sort of where it stems from.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of like the Tyranids, and they have this hive mind. They're like bug beast xenomorphs that go from planet to planet. We don't know why they're just trying to make themselves bigger like a virus.
Oh, and there's the gene cults as well.
Okay, let's talk about the gene cults.
So the gene cults, there's this Tyranid organism called a gene stealer, and what the gene stealer does is it will somehow it will hide on like ships, things like that, in like, you know, basically your typical alien stuff, hiding in air vents, that kind of thing. And when a gene stealer comes in contact with a host, whether it be a crew member, whatever, it will basically like inject them with some sort of organic substance and leave them alone. And this host will have no memory of this. And when this...
It's like getting face hugged, but you have no idea it's happened.
Yeah. So you kind of like see something, what the fuck is that? And then you get you're in like a trance, you go up to it and it's like the hive mind fucking with your head. And then you snap out of it, it's like, what the fuck happened? I'm on the floor, why am I on the floor?
Anyway, nothing to hear.
Yeah.
Oh god!
Yeah. So when this crew member, hypothetically, if let's say a crew member gets
lies down on the breakfast table.
No. I just need some decent food. They'll have a child, and this child isn't quite normal, but you know, has...
Wait, is it just a child of their future relationship? Or like,
yeah.
So it's just like, it's in there, and then this is their way of like... Oh no, I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah.
Multiplying. So this crew member, say, would have a child, and that child is fine. And then the next generation, this other child, or the next generation that comes along, maybe an extra pair of arms. You know?
Honey!
Maybe a slightly bigger head.
I'm not questioning your loyalty.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, I didn't have 4 fucking arms.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and because this is like, a lot of Imperial planets, they're quite ignorant of the like wider forces.
Yeah, because they think we're humans, we rule the galaxy.
Yeah.
We'll kill anything that gets near us.
They would see this as just simply another mutant, another mutation, because they're living on these like toxic planets that are pumping
webbed toe, perhaps?
Yeah, yeah.
Alex. I don't know if you've got webbed toes, and if you do, I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
Yeah, so basically it like lies in wait and then slowly kind of
Yeah,
infiltrates humanity.
So yeah, it gets into your DNA, it starts messing it up. Before you know it, there's entire cults of... they're called gene stealer cults. It's because they are now... the Tyranids have now compromised a human
colony or
something like that. And yeah, you'll have things called gene stealer cults, which overthrow planetary governments, set down their own rules, things like that, and they're just Tyranids, and all the while they are calling to this hive mind to come to this system and strip it of its biomass.
It's basically like, we're in, we've got the planet, come suck it dry before the defenders.
But they don't know this. They think, oh yeah, this is the true divinity, this is the true emperor. It's just the hive mind is fucking with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's quite smart.
Yeah.
That is very, very smart. What we wouldn't expect from a bestial looking thing. So I guess that's the Tyranids, is like, they're this beastly race, but there is some definite intelligence behind them.
Yeah.
And, they are your typical monsters, as we would say, within, like, when we're looking at something from the outside. So what does humanity try and do? Like, we're talking about the Emperor's Plan B. This is the first... We're going to talk about all the other factions as well, but, like, in terms of the Tyranids, what's the plan? What are they trying to do in the current narrative?
So I guess...
So I guess they don't really know what they are still. They're like, holy shit, where's this all coming from?
Yeah. They know it's from outside the galaxy. One thing about the Tyranids is these hive fleets have different designations. So there's Hive Fleet Leviathan.
So they're named?
Yeah, these.
How do we know that?
Because, you know why this. Because they entered the galaxy from a different location. So you've got Hive Fleet Leviathan coming from the northwest. You've got Hive Fleet Behemoth coming from the southeast. We might be fucking surrounded.
But were they named by humans? Or
Yeah.
So this is human
just
designations.
like designations.
Oh, so it's not like they've designated themselves?
No.
Oh, okay, right. That's what I thought you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're like, oh shit, they're fucking coming for
We don't know where they come from. All we know is that the galaxy may be completely surrounded by Tyranids.
Hungry monsters coming to eat you in the night.
Hungry monsters coming to eat you from outside of the galaxy.
Okay.
So that's one enemy.
But we're not actually we can't do anything but fight them when they turn.
Yeah, so they're a tough fight as well. Like they're a whole like I guess Space Marines just get completely...
Because they can rip through the armour and they can just like...
They can
adapt to like...
Suck the biomass out of a Space Marine's armour and spit acid, all that kind of stuff. They are tough.
All bioweapons, basically. Because like, they're not just like a melee thing. They have like guns and cannons. They have like... You see those minis with like the massive fucking bioweapon on its back. It's like, like kaiju style monsters.
It's kind of like Starship Troopers meets Alien meets something else. The Thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect analogy for like what they actually are. And so the plan is basically just try and defend yourself against them.
Just kill them. Just
try and kill them.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to hear just kill them is the main thing.
Yeah.
So that's the first enemy of man that's coming.
Yeah. And that's been around for a couple of centuries. They're quite a recent thing in the narrative, but...
Not like the Eldar and the Dark Eldar.
Well, there are accounts that there could have been like historic Tyranid invasions. Like
we just don't have the record of.
Centuries ago, millennia ago. It's why you get things like, Catachans.
Yeah.
The planet Catachan. I know you're really into them.
I do like them.
The megafauna that they fight could, like some species may be possible remnants of like a historical ancient Tyranid invasion, that kind of thing.
That wasn't quite as adaptable.
So we don't know how long they've truly been around for. All we know.
But that again, that's an interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's again what we talk about. Interpretations of things. This is again on the Tyranids that they could have been around for ages, and it's sort of like, here's a carrot. Is it one of those things? We're not going to tell you ever, because that's up to you to decide.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have these minis at your table. If you want to paint up that fauna and flora as Tyranids does.
So I'll tell you how I got into Tyranids.
No.
So I actually got into Tyranids by accident when I was 11, 12, however old I was.
Maybe I accidentally spent some money.
No. So they were my first army I collected. And the reason I started collecting Tyranids is because we had like a group of friends who were really into 40k, and I was kind of choosing my army. And I don't know if you remember, Games Workshop used to have these like printed catalogues they bring out every year.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still do them, probably don't. But
I remember them. It's like White Dwarf?
It was
the other one.
It was something separate to that. So yeah, I was flicking through this catalogue and I was like, oh, I really like the ones with the tails. And my mates were like, oh, Tyranids, you want the Tyranids? And I was like, yeah, Tyranids, yeah, cool, yeah, whatever. What I actually saw was the Necron Wraiths.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I wanted to get Necrons, and they were like, you want Tyranids? I was like, oh, okay. But then it turns out I'm really into them, they're really cool. Yeah, that's how I started collecting Tyranids.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, you've mentioned the Necron there then. So I guess we'll talk about them as the next threat.
Sure.
They're also relatively new in the narrative, are they?
Yes, so we briefly spoke about the Necrons last episode?
Yes, because we talked about how the old ones
Yeah.
warred against them because they wouldn't give the old ones... wouldn't give the Necrovite? Necrotor?
Necrontyr?
Necrontyr, that's it.
Sorry,
so the pre...
Pre-Necrons. I know I'm kind of straying away from the Emperor's Plan B, but I guess I need to give some...
Yeah, because I
don't actually know what the Emperor's Plan B is. It's all conjecture.
Yeah, and this is why I want you to go on to like what the other races and factions are, because like now that the Emperor is stuck on the throne, how is he protecting humanity? So what are the threats to humanity is sort of how I'm coming at this approach. So the threats to humanity are the other Xenos as it is, as far as I'm aware. So we've got the Tyranids, and they're your monsters. And I guess since we mentioned the Necrons, we'll talk about the things that look like Terminators.
Yeah, so the Necrons, when we spoke about the Necrons in the last episode, so the Necrons were once a biological organic race called the Necrontyr who came into contact with the old ones. They were sort of, kind of advanced, but relative to the old ones, not really. Like...
The old ones were the power.
They were the power.
Godlike levels of science and
and
technology.
The Necrontyr had this very, very harsh life because they lived on like an irradiated planet. They would just live to die, and they would dedicate most of their time to these like building these crypts, tomb complexes, that kind of thing. And eventually, I think they found a way to escape their home planet because they developed these...
Spaceships.
Spaceships, yeah. And I think that's when, after this point, is when they came into contact with the old ones.
And they were like, hey,
Give us
whoa,
a hand.
hang on a minute. We're dying and you can live forever. What's the secret? And the old ones were like, no.
Yeah, the old ones, they didn't really want to, that age-old thing of like not wanting to...
Give up the power.
Get involved. I guess let nature take its course, that kind of thing, even though they seeded life.
Oh, okay. I thought it was didn't want to give up power thing, but no, actually, I suppose that's more noble.
It was more sort of
don't get involved.
Unwilling to interfere in natural progression. And obviously, this pissed off the Necrontyr, and I don't know if it's like hundreds or thousands of years later, they started to war with him. But the reason they started to war with him is because they came across something called the Catan, which are basically these gods of real space, like the Chaos gods. They're like manifestations of like real space and time. Very confusing. We'll get into them one day, but just think of them as
gods, but not from the warp.
Yeah, gods from real space.
Bad gods.
So these, and I think one of these Catan were responsible for this irradiated homeworld because they were feeding off the radiation of this star or something like that. Or at least they discovered that one of these beings was feeding off of the energy given off by this very unstable star that was irradiating the Necrontyr homeworld. So, by some means, they began to be able to communicate with these Catan. And it turns out these Catan, eons ago, once went to war with the old ones and lost.
So they still had a stick up their ass.
Yeah. So the old one, and this is, I'm trying to make this as brief. Yeah. This is a very, very
I'll pull you back
gloss.
if you go too far.
Yeah. Thanks. So the Catan turned to the Necrontyr and said, we don't like these old ones. We can give you the means to take them on. And the Necrontyr, being quite bitter about the whole denial of being given the gift of immortality, that kind of thing, were like, fuck yeah, Like, yeah, fuck these guys. And I think to begin with, this... Because the old ones had, like, access to the webway, they were outmaneuvering the Necrontyr. They were just getting completely fucked. By this point, it was probably like an interstellar civilization, Necrontyr. They did not stand a chance against these old ones. So, eventually, these Catan said, we will give you the means to fight them effectively. And what they basically did was offer the Necrontyr an immortal shell kind of like their own version of immortality. So like these construct bodies where you will have your consciousness, you'll just be put into this construct.
So we'll take your mind and your soul and we'll put it into a robot which can never age and never die.
Yeah.
Therefore, you'll live forever and you'll get what you wanted from the old ones.
Yeah, and this is something called the biotransference, which is a whole story. But basically, when this happened, only a very, 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 very finite number of these Necrontyr were able to retain their consciousness, their sentience, their sense of individuality. The rest of this Necrontyr people, now the Necrons in these constructs, are just slave drones for these Catan. Because the Catan fed on their souls.
And they tricked them, basically.
Yeah,
they were like, yeah, jump in these suits of armour and we'll sort you out. And then it turns out it was a trap.
Yeah, it was a trap, yeah. Because the Catan wanted to defeat these old ones again. They didn't really give a shit about the Necrontyr. It was a means to an end. So, fast forward, the old ones have lost their war against the Necrons.
So this is it. They lose the war against the old ones.
Yeah.
But then you said...
Sorry, the Necrons beat the old ones eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, they beat the old ones. So like, essentially,
Time to head out.
see you later, Dragon Skull.
Oh,
Hopefully,
okay.
we'll see you soon. Feel free to check out the VOD later on, or we'll stick this up on YouTube as per normal, and it'll probably, hopefully, get up there by tomorrow evening. I might be a bit quicker at doing that. But yeah, take it easy, bud, and hopefully we'll stream together soon.
Cool, thanks.
So the Necrontyr and become the Necron. They war with the old ones, and they win. The bad guys essentially win. Because if we look at it black and white, we're talking the old ones are like seeding life and trying to be the noble gods, and the Necrontyr and the Catan are like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And but they trash the real space.
This galaxy
the entire
is
galaxy
a battlefield.
is a battlefield, and nothing has survived.
Yeah, and this is like war on a god level.
And this, because we talked about this last week ever so slightly. We talked about the old ones. So, what happens?
So, eventually, the Necrons now having largely defeated the old ones, they kind of like retreat to the webway, but then they're kind of rooted out and are largely rendered extinct. The Necrons, I said about a very finite number of Necrons being able to retain their sentience, that kind of thing.
Yes.
They led a rebellion against these Catan.
Why?
Because they were tricked, they were enslaved.
And they were pissed off about...
They were pissed off. Because the Catan granted them this knowledge, they were able to really, really get the upper hand on the old ones in terms of technology, weapons, that kind of thing.
So, they trick them, they take their souls, they make them this drone race of soldiers to fight the old ones, basically for the Catan to win, and a few of the Necrons keep their sentience. And they're like, okay, there's nothing we can do now to bring back the race, but we can exact revenge.
Yeah. So they, by some means, they go to war with the Catan now. So they rebel against the Catan, and by some means they are able to trap and shatter the Catan into things called shards. So now the Catan are completely dealt with.
So that's the other god race gone.
Yeah.
The good and the bad gods gone.
This probably went on for millions of years. We just don't know.
Now there's nothing left.
Now having dealt with the Catan, the galaxy is just an absolute shithole. It needs to be replenished. So this is when the Necrons go into stasis.
Yeah.
This is when, like, the Eldar are the benefactors of this new set of circumstances.
And the Eldar were a race built by the old ones to basically combat and be more psychers around. And the Necrons are like, well, we don't need to fight those. They'll probably die on their own. We'll go to sleep and just outweight them.
Yeah. So now the Necrons are in a state of stasis. However, there's this one, I guess, individual, if you like, called the Silent King, who was a leading figure amongst the Necrontyr civilization. And he became, I guess it's a fairly androgynous figure, so they became a Necron themselves. But they stayed awake for 65 million years and meditated on the fringes of the galaxy, perhaps in the void between one galaxy and another, for 65 million years, contemplating their mistakes of agreeing to this biotransference. So this figure, this Silent King, has been sitting in wait for millions and millions of years, and has only now decided to return because they saw these Tyrannid forces coming into the galaxy, and he basically just thinks there's not going to be anything left. If we want the galaxy to replenish itself, and the Tyrannids are coming in, stripping everything of biomass, there's not going to be anything left.
So they are basically like, okay, we'll wake up and fight against the Tyrannids. We don't necessarily want to fight with the humans, but we need...
Oh, they see every race as vermin. So they believe it's their birthright, this galaxy is their birthright. So they look down on all other races.
And basically they're like, but we do need those other races to fertilise the ground.
Yeah, they see the uses. I don't think it's the only reason they came back out of stasis because of the Tyrannids, but that's one of the big reasons.
Which is a good segue back in from the Tyrannids. So, who we saw, you said, came from an extra galaxy space,
Yeah.
And this is, the first thing that, we see is the Necrons being like, okay, shit, well, I guess we have to do something about this then. So that's them, and they start then waking up, and their sleep worlds are all over the galaxy.
Yeah, they are. And a lot of these have been destroyed because of the millions of years, continental drift, that kind of thing. These facilities have just been, either they've survived the eons or they haven't.
And what does that mean? So, people are built on top of them?
People are built on top of them. Imperial colonies don't know that they're there. They're sitting on top of them until the Necrons come out of stasis, re-emerge, and just take over the planet, that kind of thing.
I could stay asleep for that long, but not awake.
Yeah.
I think, so basically, even during the golden age of man, in our time now, right now, there could be a Necron tomb somewhere on Earth.
Yeah.
And we would be like, we wouldn't know until the Tyranids start coming into the galaxy in the 41st millennium.
Or the Necrons just start waking up because they see this vermin race trespassing on their birthright.
And they're like, okay, right, we're waiting for this planet, mate. We were first in line.
And they have a mastery of, metaphysics. So, real space. They're able to traverse the galaxy, not even using the warp. They have their own ways.
So kind of this is the antithesis of what the old ones were and what the Eldar did. So whereas they all webways get about, they learn how to traverse without the warp, and they learn how to traverse without the webways.
Yeah.
So this is when we look at Star Wars and hyperspace and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, and I spoke about the pariah gene.
Yes.
How that's a nulling effect on the warp. The Necrons are all about this.
Yeah.
I think they all have this pariah gene.
They're immune to it.
Yeah.
So do they have psychers then?
No, I don't think so. They have incomprehensible levels of weaponry and things like that, but I don't think they rely on the warp by any means.
So if we were looking at playing one of these as a game, they have no magical people. It's all just
They have things like resurrection, Terminators getting back up, that kind of thing.
That's because they're machines.
Reanimation, they are machines. And they look sick.
Yeah, they do. They look like... For those of you who haven't seen, they look like Terminators.
Yeah.
With fucking huge... They've got Tyranid-looking weapons.
Yeah.
And then they're these...
So their weapons, they're called Gauss cannons, and if they were to hit a target, a Space Marine, it strips their atoms layer by layer, rendering them nothing.
So it's not just a weapon, it's a de-entityifier.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
So the Necron now, we see them in the current playing state as... They're just waking up everywhere, so the justification to have them on the table is you stumble across a Necron tomb, or they're trying to take back this world from Space Marines and Chaos, or...
I should mention this because this falls back to the Emperor, but because the Necrons have this mastery of metaphysics, they have this technology known as Blackstone, or there's this mineral called Blackstone, which has... Imagine the pariah gene, but in a sort of material sense. So the properties of this Blackstone is utilised by the Necrons in order to control the warp.
Yeah.
So it is the complete antithesis of the warp. And because the Necrons have this technology or this understanding, certain factions of humanity like the Mechanicum or the Adeptus Mechanicus, they're trying to somehow... I know we talked about the Mechanicum being against innovation and invention. Certain factions are going against that because they need to harness this Blackstone technology in order to combat the warp. Because in the current narrative, things like the Great Rift, which is a massive warp storm, which has separated the Imperium into the Imperial Nihil. We'll get to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Blackstone, and this is made by them? Or just something that they've harvested?
Something that they've harvested. I believe the old ones had this as well. So even though they were very warp sensitive or had understanding of the warp, I believe they still utilised this mineral. And
this mineral basically protects you from outside interference of the warp. So like you are shielded completely. So if you were to make a room out of it, the warp cannot penetrate that.
Not at all.
And so whereas like the Emperor's cave system, his labyrinth under the Himalayas, his laboratory, was that made of Blackstone or not?
I don't think so.
No. So like that's why Chaos could punch their way through once the webway was broken.
Yeah.
And how did the Emperor end up utilised? Did the Emperor find Blackstone in his time, or is it because obviously he's like all-knowing?
Yeah, I think he knows what it is. I don't think it's been utilised by him. I don't actually know.
Yeah, I don't because I didn't know.
Yeah, this is where it's like interpretation. Like he could have used Blackstone at some point. We just don't know, but a lot of it is to be revealed.
Yeah. Okay. And when we look at, because obviously there's the game Blackstone Fortress.
Yeah, which I bought a while ago. I think I've only played once.
Oh, you actually have played it now?
Yeah, I played with Jack Woodfie.
Oh, nice.
Well, he showed me the rules.
So Jack, you will probably meet very, very soon, is our friend and part of our gaming group and D&D groups and stuff. And he is so good at board games. Yeah. Like, he looks at the rulebook and goes, oh, it's kind of like this, that's like this. This is the premise of the game. I get that. The rest of it, I'll show you how to go. He's so concise
he's very good
at teaching board games. It's insane.
Yeah,
so
hopefully
hopefully we'll be doing some board game shows with him. Yeah. And that'll be very cool. But that's spoilers, and we'll get to that in time. So that's sort of the Necron. They're like waking up on random worlds, and that's who we're fighting.
Yeah.
So we've done Tyranids, we've done Necron. I guess we'll look at... I want to bring Chaos in towards the end, I think, because that takes us back to the Emperor of Man and his plan. Yeah. So I guess we look at Orcs next.
Yeah.
This other monstrous race that isn't kind of humanity.
Yeah.
What are the Orcs? Where are they from? How is the Emperor going to deal with them?
So the Orcs are they are a creation of the Old Ones as a means to fight the Necrons eons ago, when this war in heaven occurred. They looked very different at the time. I think they looked bigger. They were slightly more intelligent.
Coffee.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the first thing that we're going to pull out there is they were created by the Old Ones.
Yeah.
So at the same time that the Necrons were being enslaved and they created the Eldari to focus on magic and warp, they created the Orcs.
The Orcs were, so like a scrapper race. They were able to just have this understanding of functions where they were able to just build giant weapons, war engines, kind of like your sort of Mad Max vibe sort of thing, but on a very a much cleaner level at this time, millions of years ago. In the current narrative, because they've been left to their evolution over millions and millions of years, they look very different.
Yeah.
They're still quite big, extremely scary, and just orcs, I guess is what I'm trying to get across. And Orc society is, they just want to fight everything.
Because that's what they were made to do.
Yeah.
They were made to fight.
They're not doing anything wrong in terms of their genetic makeup, because they're doing what they were programmed to do.
Which actually, I suppose that takes us back to the Tyranids as well. They are just doing what they do.
Yeah.
Tyranid be Tyranid, Orc be Orc. One is designed to consume and devour, the other one is designed to just fight.
Conquer.
Yeah, fight and conquer.
Yeah.
So they create these Orcs and then fighting round the world.
Yeah.
Hello, Dan F. And I guess they are a combative race where power and strength...
Oh, and they sound like Cockney as well. They are very,
Oh, they actually sound Cockney, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I was just
because orcs are fun.
Yeah, I just kind of like imagine them to be like, oh, I don't got no bones anymore. Yeah,
Call yourself a space marine. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Not high intelligence then.
No. But what the orcs have this unique ability because they are a creation of the old ones. They do have a psychic. They can utilize.
They're playing the ukulele.
They can utilize the warp to a
That's
very
a boat right there.
yeah, utilize the warp on a very minor level. In that, if there's enough orcs, and this is where it gets a bit confusing, but it's fun. If enough orcs believe something to be, it will be.
So this is like en masse manifestating their beliefs. So kind of like humans have now done with Psychers and the warp and God being the Emperor of Man.
So
now.
you bring something into reality. So say about 1 million orcs make this car, and there's no fucking way this car is going to work. This is a really stupid example, but I'll use it.
I know where you're getting at. Yeah. It's like, they just take random bits of like a cup and that's its wheel,
and
then
stick it to a piece of metal.
Yeah.
If enough orcs believe that this engine will function, it will function, because that hive psychic mentality changes reality. It's like when I think there's an account of an orc chucking a rock, and
I know this one.
All these orcs believed it to be a grenade, so this rock just blew up, something like that. Yeah,
that's crazy. So like, we're talking about like the orcs are, unbeknownst to them, magical in a sense that like they get en masse and they're just like they can like channel the warp through just pure belief, and it's pure belief of themselves really in what they're creating.
Yeah, they're very. I mean, they probably don't even know what the warp is. I don't think they have anything other than that in terms of psychic ability.
But like they still need to get about and traverse the galaxy. Do they do that through the warp? Because they're like
no. So I don't think so. I'm not actually sure, but their ships are just giant rust buckets, just everything welded together.
Because they're like, this one go off planet.
Yeah.
And then the boys leave the planet.
They're engineers. They're called mech boys, and they're like the brains behind all their technology and things like that. There's this really cool trailer for one of these 40k games. I think it's Battlefleet Gothic Armada. All in every orc ship, everything is wired to this prominent red button, which is basically you press this button and it smashes into another ship, or it just goes flying through the void into this enemy fleet and just causes havoc. Speed, basically.
Yeah.
Let's go, boys. You know, that kind of thing.
So the old ones have created them, and they.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Continue to exist, just fighting and just going, oh yeah, we're having a great time. Hey, I'll punch you, you punch me, I'm in charge now.
Yeah. So the more they fight, the stronger they get.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like a weird hierarchy where the bigger an orc, the longer it's been fighting. I guess the smaller orcs, they have a weird biology. They're basically like a fungus.
Okay.
That is probably a surprise to you. I don't know if you knew that, but they are a fungus.
I had heard it.
Yeah.
But I still don't quite understand. So, like, they don't give birth like you and I do.
No. So yeah, they're a fungus, and this fungus will spawn one or two. I think they're called Gretchen, which is like the lower classification of orc, basically like your goblin.
I like gobbos.
Yeah, running around.
Yeah.
And the harder they fight, the bigger they get, that kind of thing, and it's very much a status.
So it's kind of like a survival of the fittest,
yeah.
But also like whenever they win a fight or anything, they grow.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Pokemon evolve.
Yeah.
So like the mushroom adapts. You all played Bolt Gun yet? Alex, have you played Bolt Gun?
I bought it. I installed it on my PlayStation on Friday. I haven't played it yet, but I've been dreaming of it.
So Dan F, the premise of this show is that I know next to nothing about 40k and its lore. I liked some minis, I wanted to paint some minis, and that's kind of like where I come into it. Whereas Alex, you've read the Heresy series and you like the lore, and you've played a lot of the video games first. You're here to teach me a lot about it, so you'll have to explain to me. I'm assuming that since you said you've installed it, Bolt Gun is a PS game.
It's basically, I can only describe it as like a Doom mod.
Oh, cool.
But it's you walk around as a space marine killing chaos.
Nice.
It looks sick.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I will check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we'll just sit around and paint minis while we talk about that.
Yeah.
So the orcs are this fungus-like race that the old ones created.
Yeah. And you have things like orc infestations. When a planet is infested by orcs, it's known as an infestation, and that's when you get like exterminatus.
Oh, okay, so it's not like go down and fight for the planet back.
You can do if you want to keep hold of this territory. If you want some sort of strategic advantage to not be lost, you will go down and fight them if you think they can be managed.
Wow.
If not, if this infestation is out of hand, that is where exterminatus comes in. Yeah.
Wow. So you say they're like fungus. So like how does an infestation get from one planet to another?
So I believe that it's an orc war is basically like an orc crusade.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a question of conquering and conquering and conquering until this giant amass of orcs becomes this bloodthirsty festival, if you like. It's called an orc war. And that's spelled WAAAAARGH exclamation mark.
Oh, wow!
Yeah.
That's what we see on Instagram all the time.
Yeah. And this is just like your frenzied orc festival of conquering and invading these planets just for a decent fight. Like, orcs see humanity as a very, very good fight.
Because of Space Marines.
Because of Space Marines, things like that.
And that's all they want.
It's very tongue-in-cheek kind of lore, but it's really apt because that's just what they are.
Yeah.
You know.
So they're sort of just still around. I guess they've been around for like billions of years because that's like if they were created by the old ones,
Yeah.
and then
well,
eventually.
yeah, I guess millions, not billions, but sorry, I'm being redundant.
I don't know. But then humanity happens upon them.
Yeah.
And is like...
this is one of these races, you know, when like the golden age of humanity collapsed?
Yes.
This is one of these races that completely took advantage of
They were
this.
like, we've got a chance now to be stronger than the humans,
because
let's go.
These human colonies, they could no longer defend themselves. Orcs would just have an absolute party, just taking over these planets, enslaving, killing, that kind of thing. So this is another reason why humanity hates orcs.
Ah. So...
yeah.
They were around during the Golden Age, then obviously during the Age of Strife.
Oh, and they had non-aggression pacts with this Golden Age of humanity.
So that's when humanity was so powerful, even orcs were like, you
Yeah.
know what?
We'll leave you alone.
Because we need to survive as well.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That humans were that powerful, and now it's like...
I know, right?
And we think that like Space Marines and stuff like that are really powerful, but actually...
Not even...
close.
Not even close to the power that humanity had at one point in time.
And
I can't emphasize that enough, because a lot of it is shrouded by mystery, but it's just...
So what's the Emperor's prerogative then when it comes to orcs? Because he must have seen them through the Golden Age of Man, and now that he's just a husk on a throne,
yeah,
we need to know about his plan B. What's his plan when it comes to the orcs?
I don't actually know.
Is it
about
the order to kill on sight, or is it...
I think the main thing about the Emperor is... chaos, or the arch enemy, is very much his focus,
And that's it.
and that's largely it to what, as far as we know.
So I guess we don't know then what if he's got a plan for them.
He knows of orcs because he fought in the Yullanor campaign. We talked about that last week.
So how does the rest of humanity interpret them, and what do they do about them?
So orcs. So
He'd be focusing on not disintegrating. Yeah, I learnt that.
yeah,
He's just absorbing all those
there's
tasty psychers from all over the
batteries.
Silent Crusades.
Yeah, Silent Sister. Yeah, they're just batteries to keep them alive.
Okay, so what's the rest of humanity, without the Emperor's word, doing about the orcs?
So Terra and the Imperium is controlled. It's like in a very bureaucratic stage. At least before Rubute Gilliman came back.
Yeah.
You have this group called the High Lords of Terror, and these are the people responsible for enacting the Emperor's will by psychic whispers. And this is all about crusades, that kind of thing, expansion, exploring kind of thing. So I think the orcs are largely just a force to be dealt with whenever and wherever they are met.
Yeah.
If you know
Is
what I
it a
mean.
kill on sight jobby?
I think
or?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a kill on sight.
It's not like you cannot communicate with orcs.
Yeah.
Peace is incomprehensible to them because that goes against their very
Genetic
function.
mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are designed. What they do, they are designed for. So they're never going to change.
Okay.
You cannot make peace with. Well, you can if you're a fucking badass human civilization in the golden age of humanity, but
Yeah.
by and large, no.
Now the humans are not, because other
Yeah.
races are on par with them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring you back to that. Those people in charge of terror.
Yep.
After we talk about some more of the races.
Yeah.
So I want to know more about those because that I think is also, who put them in charge in the end. We'll get
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So we've got Tyranids, we've got Necrons, we've got Orcs. Who would you say is next in line on our talking about?
Well, since you're painting Tau,
Okay, the Tau Empire.
yeah. Do you want to show?
Yeah,
your
so
menus back there?
I have been painting it up. If you click to the PTZ. So I picked up a combat patrol for the Tau, and I mean, it was like a year and a bit ago, wasn't it, that we first started talking about doing a show like this. And I was like, Gundam suits, you say?
Yeah.
With,
They do look cool.
yeah, they're fucking awesome.
They
I
do
think they're
look
wicked.
really
What should I show off? Should I just do a fire card or should I go with...
What do you do one of your crisis battle suits?
So, yeah, okay, this guy, yeah?
Yeah.
So this
So,
is a crisis battle suit. It's an XV88, is it?
um,
I'm going to have to go
88.
up slightly on
I
that
think
one.
so.
And then I'll turn that around. So this is my crisis battle suit, and this is like part of the whole thing of the Tau is that I wonder if I can get that to spin. They're quite small, puny race, really,
Yeah.
and they, as far as I'm aware, this is the only Warhammer book that I've read is the start of the Farsight Enclaves, and it is literally that first book where Commander Farsight is sent out into the galaxy. There's the top of your head right there. Just trying to get that on thing, but you're going to end up seeing the top of the studio. Commander Farsight is basically sent away to deal with humanity,
Yeah.
to fight for the Enclave worlds,
Yeah.
which are, as far as I'm aware, the Tau Empire started small and they are trying to expand and become a seat of power.
Yeah.
And they have this technology that's not seen elsewhere in the galaxy, that they have these mech suits that they go into, and Commander Farsight specifically has an XV88 crisis battle suit, and he's sent away to deal with them because he's sort of like starting to question the Tau motives.
That's so sick, man.
I know that the Tau have a creed which is called Tau Va,
Yeah,
the greater good, which is basically like everything we do must be for the greater good of the Tau.
Yeah.
And that sort of decrees everything. They're all about honour, they're all about expanding, and they will try and expand through politics before combat.
Yeah.
They will try and negotiate, they will try and go to like a human system that's been cut off from the Imperium Man, or not even cut off from the Imperium Man, it's just on the edge of their expansion, and be like, hey, look, we've got all of this stuff, and we just want one thing from you. Do you want all of this stuff? And have you ever considered a 40k hot tub stream?
I'm considering it now.
Yeah. I want a hot tub. Let's
Let's
get a hot tub.
Well,
So
if
we're
we-
opening a Patreon.
yeah, if we reach, I don't know, say like 1 million subscribers. We'll
That'd
do
be
one.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 million followers.
I mean, that might be, yeah.
We got a hot tub out of it.
Cool.
Fine.
Yeah.
Sweet. So as far as I'm
Cool.
aware, yeah, they kind of went to these planets and they were like, oh, we're stupid alien. We'll give you this really good technology that your empire can't give you if you give us one thing. And then they give them a bit more and a bit more, and eventually they're like, oh, do you want to come join our army for a little bit? Because we need a little help on this other planet over here.
Yeah.
And they sort of get you that way, and they're like, they sort of bring you into the fold, and it turns out they have much more technology, and they were
Yeah.
actually giving you more than they thought because they wanted you to be on side and likable.
Yeah.
Then if they don't, they're like, well, then we'll kill you.
Yeah.
Because that's the 40k verse. And they came up really fast. I believe they, from what I gather from you, from Luton, and from the start of the Farsight Enclaves books, was that they were a race that was really primitive when the Imperium first happened across them, and then within like several thousand years rather than millions, they evolved to
Yeah.
this level of technology, and
Yeah.
the humans were like, whoa, we were going to exterminate you a couple of thousand years ago and didn't because We didn't think you'd...
Exactly.
Well, this is a problem, and now they're so powerful that like the humans are like, oh shit, we're dealing with the Tyranids, we're dealing with the orcs.
Yeah, well, that's the reason. So yeah, they discovered this primitive race and didn't really perceive them as a threat, but then came back to this system.
I put up a fire card because I really like them.
Cool, man.
Or put up Ghost Kill.
Oh, God, that's cool. I love that base as well. That's sick.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Awesome.
Oh, let's go up again. Whoop, there's a Ghost Kill.
2 guys, 1 tub special. Yeah.
That'd be a load of shit.
So, where was I getting at? Oh, yeah, so, like, yeah, they met this, like you say, this primitive race, didn't perceive them as a threat, kind of wanted to get rid of them, because, useless race, but were kind of sidetracked one way or
Because
another.
they only just discovered fire, didn't they? It was sort of like, it was like they were literally warring with each other, and then...
That's right.
That was it.
I remember reading, so I think it's like 2,000 years later, the Imperium, because Tau Society exists on I think it's the southeastern fringe of the galaxy. So the Imperium came back into contact with this alien civilization, and these were... They progressed to a technological level so quickly that they were able to traverse between systems. It was an interstellar society.
But not into warp, basically. Into,
No.
Yeah.
So I don't think they rely on warp travel. They have like their own. It's kind of a less efficient way of traveling, but they don't really rely on the warp as humanity does.
Because I know they have no psychers.
Yeah.
So they're not warp
That's right.
connected.
Yeah. So yeah, I think when humanity came back to the Tau Society and perceived them as a threat, they were about to exterminate them then and there. Because considering an empire of 1 million worlds has untold resources at their disposal. So I think it was the Damocles Crusade is the first great conflict between
Yeah, I think
the
that's what
Tau-
the book is on about. Yeah.
the Tau and the Imperium of Man. The Tau put up a pretty good fight, but I think the Imperium were sort of gaining the upper hand because the Tau expands in spheres of space. I think the Imperium somehow were getting the upper hand, but it was a good fight, and the only reason they stopped this conflict, the Imperium, or at least took its focus away, is because there was a Tyranid hive fleet entering the galactic northwest.
Yes.
And they had to
Abandon the Tau.
they had to abandon this campaign because they had to designate all these or delegate all these resources to another conflict.
Because the Tau was seen as a... not the Tau,
the Tyranids were seen as a more sort of superior threat to Imperial society.
And they were like, holy shit, if we lose that area, we can't even fight the Tau. So let's go deal with that.
In the meantime, Tau have expanded even more.
Yeah, and they were just like... So this is the thing, is that like, from what I got from the books, is... so they sort of like are losing, and then they're like, we fought the humans off, Tau,
Yeah.
and then they're like, we must expand, and then Farsight's seen something on a world with orcs, I think it is, and he's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, he sees chaos, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
he sees chaos for the first time, and he's like, oh, that's gonna fuck us.
Yeah.
That's gonna really fucking hurt us. And then he starts bringing that back to the Tau Society, and they're like,
Well,
fuck off.
The Ethereals are like, oh, they're just another alien.
And he's like, no, I saw them.
Yeah.
They're bad. And
So I think we briefly touched on Tau class society, didn't we? So they're bred into class.
no, we didn't.
So
We
there's-
talked about the different cadres.
That's right. Yeah, the fire, the earth.
Yeah.
So I think that is the class system. So
Oh, okay.
the fire warriors are like the army, the foot soldiers. So the fire caste is your combatants. The earth caste is your farmers, your agri-worlds, that kind of thing. The air caste is the Tau interstellar navy pilots, because their anatomy is different. It's lighter. They've got like collarbones, so they're bred this way.
Yeah.
So they all have their own functions to carry out. Earth, air, fire, water caste. I think the water caste is like your sort of political.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I know that from the book,
Yeah,
because
yeah. I wasn't
there's
quite
one
sure
called,
about
I think it's the Water Spider.
Yeah.
And he is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And like, I think he bites off his own tongue and like shit like that, because he's just like, the Talvar is a lie and I will speak no lies. And he's like, something like that. It's been a while since I read it.
Jeez.
Yeah, the book is great because it was like just when you put me onto Warhammer properly, and I picked up this, and you were like, "Hey, check out Audible. Hey, Audible, if you want to sponsor us." Because you get that one free subscription a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I got the First of the Far Side Enclave, which is Dan Kelly, I think, who wrote it.
Okay.
And it was just really cool because, like, there's a member of the Imperial Inquisition on the Council of the Tau.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good.
And she's got like a big fucking Imperial eagle on her forehead.
Right.
And then she's also like a spy for the Imperium and the Tau.
Do they know this?
Yeah, they're like, well, we can learn about the humans and they can learn about us, and it's weird.
Yeah.
And her and Farsight are basically told, you can go across Damocles' gap, and reclaim these worlds that the humans took back from us.
Yeah.
And if we lose you, we lose you. Because you're starting to become a problem because you keep talking about these fucking chaos things that you've seen. And the Ethereal Cast are like...
They're like your leaders, aren't they, dude?
Yeah, so the Water Cast are like, get him gone. He's obviously going to be disruptive to the Talvar. And then, which is the greater good. And basically, the Water Spider, this Water Cast member is like, I'm going with you.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what? I think it's Paul Malcor, I think his name is, because I kept thinking it was Malcador. He's like, Paul Malcor, the Water Spider. He fucking brutally murders his own people. On, like,
I just imagine him biting off his own tongue and then an Imperial Inquisitor just going, God, I thought we were fucked up.
It's honestly, man, it's like the most messed up thing I've like.
Check this out, virus bomb.
Yeah, but there are these 4 casts, like the earth, air, water, and fire.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like, that stereotypical like elements, and those are your main 4 bits of society that I understood. But they're a threat to the Imperium because they basically have AI.
Yeah.
And that's a big no-no for the Imperium of Man.
Yeah, so Tau society is incredibly advanced. There is actually a theory that I don't know how true this is. Another
this is interpretation again.
Yeah. Somebody has theorized that Tau society exists in the way it does because there was an STC on the Tau home world, and that's how they were able to get so technologically advanced. That's a theory.
Yeah, and we'll go back to STCs and why that's so important now the Emperor's fucking stuck on a throne, because obviously these are the only things that can give us new technology. I'm going to go back to our paint cams, really.
Yeah.
If you hit the PTZ one, mate, and I'll take the Ghost Keel away. STCs and the Tau. Yeah, so the Tau have advanced so quickly that they now have AI, and humans are like, no AI, the machine god, no.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what the AI is in Tau society.
They have computers in board, they're like XV88s and stuff that like can do things for them. They have actual AIs and drones, So this is the other thing about the Tau society, when it comes to the minis that we have. If you want to flip back to the PTZ, I'll show you some other things. So basically like Firecast and their warriors are like your typical grunts. So imagine Space Marines. They're smaller than humans, but they have this thing like living metal armor basically, which is like their mech suits. And they have these... they cover themselves in, they're like hoof feet, they've got like blue skin, but they just cover themselves in armour that can like deflect bolt gun stuff because they're like, well, we're weak and squishy, so let's put a big skeleton around us.
Is that when they get like the shields on the minis and things like that?
No, the living armour is quite literally like,
oh, right.
It's like a living metal. I think that's what they describe in the Enclave book.
Yeah.
The Damocles Crusade.
So is it like Necrodermis, like the Necrons, or is it?
Yeah, I think so, but it's like their own sort of creation, and I think that is part of the theory that there is an STC.
There's a lot I don't know about the Tau.
And I think,
tell me.
Yeah, and I think that's something I like because I read that book and you were like, oh, I haven't done that one, and I was like, because it's not part of the heresy.
Yeah.
But it happens in and around those times. So that's the Fire Carder warriors. Part of the Fire Carder as well is this. This is a Ghost battlesuit. Still kind of painting it. My line works really shoddy on that actually. But
I love that. No, that's
basically they're like stealth battle suits.
They are. When I used to play Dawn of War, did you ever play that? I used to just make the XV88.
Oh, nice.
Battle suits, just the scouts. That's
like one of their leaders. That's actually Darkstrider is kind of like up there with Farsight, and there's 4 of them. I think it's Longstrider, who is their tank commander.
Yeah.
Darkstrider, who is their like stealth ops, so he's got all these little drones that like they look like ID-10 from Star Wars, and they're like little probe droids. There is Commander Farsight, who has this mini which I need to get because I just want to paint it.
Yeah.
It's just this badass XV-88 with a fucking sword that can take on dreadnoughts and fucking it's really sick. Like if you listen to the books, he's like, I ripped him apart limb from, and he's just like slicing through people with his sword.
Oh, we haven't talked about dreadnoughts. We will get to that.
Yeah. Because we're going to go into like the makeups of Space Marine chapters in time, and then there is Shadow Sun, and Shadow Sun is another warrior. And I think her and Farsight had something in the past, or they might allude to them being romantically involved, but then they're not, and they're all about honor, and they don't talk to each other. Then he's sent out on the Damocles expedition or crusade, and he's like, Commander Shadow Sun should be leading this. She is the greater warrior. Yeah. And they're like, no, she's going into stasis to wait for the next 10,000 years. You're going, because we don't want to deal with you.
Fucking hell.
It's, they pushed him out, and that's what starts like the Farsight enclaves, which is like...
I remember, I think Adeptus Ridiculous talked about this, but basically, what's his name? The main Farsight guy.
Commander Farsight.
Commander Farsight, yeah. So
who's that guy, Dan? Yeah, Dan. Yeah, that's the one.
So you know the Emperor. What's he called? The Emperor?
Yeah.
A Winter's Tale.
You want to flip that on the PTs?
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that's the sort of like minis. Oh, drones! Fucking.
Oh yeah, drones.
That's the point. And I'll put these on there. So that's one of their ships. But like what you can see there is like a little drone that's attached to the right-hand wing. And whereas they don't have psychers and they don't have like a lot of close and melee fighters, they're all about range. A lot of Tau lore just seems to be about other factions shitting on them. Kind of, but at the same time, what it seems to be, what I've read, is that actually like their expansion is so fast, they are now rivaling in the current narrative Space Marines and
they like take on board other alien species as well. So like the Vespin, Kroot mercenaries.
Yeah, so they will go to another planet and they will like say, look, we don't want to destroy you or conquer you, but we do want to expand.
Including humans. So Tau have human auxiliaries. I think they're called the Guevesa.
Yes, it is the Guevesa, because they talk about, and that's just, I think, a word for humans, because they literally call the Inquisition lady Guevesa. And it's always this deep voice. I fucking love it. It's so good. It's so Optimus Prime. It's like, you'll take them down here.
Love it.
It's a great book. I really enjoyed it. It's the only Warhammer book I didn't even read it, I listened to it. But they have like these ships, and drones kind of control everything. So they don't have like melee fighters. They send drones out to do their work, and they're spying. That's a shield drone. Then there's like a gun drone.
Save the day when the enemy gets too cozy. Yeah, that's true.
But when they incorporate other races, and that's like a marker drone for snipers. Way gravity.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Top 3 badass Tau moments.
I don't know, because I quite literally have only done the one book.
Yeah.
And for me, it is basically... there's a point where Farsight basically is properly fucked up in his suit, and he's like, they're fighting, they just happen across an Imperial fleet dropping out of like the warp in the Damocles like area, and they end up in combat way before they even get to where they're going. And he's stayed awake, and everybody else has gone into stasis as they have to travel really slowly, and they have to take their like auxiliary forces and basically go and fight off the humans. They basically punch a hole into the Imperial ship. He gets inside it. He then breaks his arm getting out of his like XV-88 and has to like single-handedly with a broken arm and like a side pistol go through to the engine core of a Imperial naval vessel.
That is not good.
And fucking destroys it.
Yeah.
And like as he goes through, like entities of chaos are coming in, and it's just like fucking mad. So yeah,
we'll get on that.
That's a Farsight thing that was really cool. There is a moment with Paul Malcor who brutally murders 2 other Tau members who mocked him, because they sort of like, you know, like haughty-taughty, highty-tighty people are like, oh, come here and listen to this one. And they sort of like take the piss out of him.
Oh, bloody marvellous.
Yeah, and they sort of take the piss out of him in the sense of like, you're not like the rest of us. You're a bit weird. And he's like, yeah. And
so they're like hitting him with money and socks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then like they go into stasis, and he decides to stay awake with the skeleton crew, like Farsight and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he wakes them up. He goes into their room, and he basically has this drone following him. He smashes the drone apart, puts it in a bag, and then wakes up one of these guys like, hey, and they're like, Spider, water spider, what are you doing here? And he's like,
shoves a fist in his mouth.
Basically, yeah, and he's like, I'm here to murder you.
Yeah.
And they're like, ha, good joke. He's like, I don't lie. Smash, smash, smash! And he beats him to death with a fucking drone in a bag, and then goes up and kills the other one. And the other one's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I've just murdered this one, and now I'm going to murder you.
Yeah.
And they're like, the fuck? And he basically waited until he was on this ship, and they were asleep.
That's
and then,
fucked up.
Yeah, it was fucking, it's cool though, because he's also kind of a good guy. And then
I love that's how like Tau lore is expanding in a way that like they start to have this like civil war around there between like the Farsight enclaves and the main Tau society.
So I don't know yet because I haven't got that far ahead. Another badass moment in that one book is, I guess there is another member of Farsight's crew, and they all kind of like trained together under Unwei, I think it is, which is like the top Tau guy who's like. He trained Shadow Sun, Dark Strider, Long Strider, and Farsight.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that, I guess, like Pai Mei kind of thing, where like he trains all and like everyone goes to him if they're the best. And there's this other one who, I guess it's two things I'm going to go into here. One is that like one of them basically is dying and gets put into a ghost keel battlesuit as his consciousness. And becomes an AI controlling a suit.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and he's fucking cool. And then, or it could be an XV-88, I'm not too sure. But he basically like takes on like a load of Space Marines on his own. And basically, they come into the thing and they're like fucking hacking it with chainsaws at his knees and stuff. And he's like, set off the missiles, blow myself up, jump into another suit, and then fucking carry on. So that's cool. But then there's another one who's like Farsight's sort of squire, I guess. And he's like, you must head down to there and take on the boarding party. He's like, I'll do it for you, my lord. And he's like, for the Tau! Nice. And he goes down there and he's like, basically like takes on a fucking load of Space Marines on his own and fucking nails most of them, but then ends up dying. And it's a really cool moment as like the Tower getting boarded by Space Marines and like Farsight's going out to fight against like people outside in spaceships, and he ends up boarding the ship. It's a really cool battle book. And
did you ever play Fire Warrior?
No.
Too. Oh god, I've still got it in my.
So again, like I know nothing really of 40k. So that one book is all I've got to go on, and then which takes us back to the Tau, like the mini super. So they're the drones. They use those a lot to basically scout ahead, protect them with shields, mark sniper bits, and go from there. They do bring other races in board. So the Kroot, who are another alien race.
They're like a bird. Simian bird-like people.
Yeah, they're like weird-looking bestial things, and they're like snipers meets melee fighter.
Yeah.
So they can shoot really far with these like rifles, but then they like you get close to them, and they're like, yeah, we'll fucking rip a Space Marine's arm off.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's a really cool thing. They'll indoctrinate other races into their armies because they're good at things that the Tau aren't. So they improvise, they adapt, and they overcome. And this is a problem to the Empire because obviously they have AI. The Emperor is against that, and they are trying to expand at a phenomenal rate. Yeah. And that's the Tau. And the point of the Tau...
they're now a not just a growing threat, they're quite a substantial threat to Imperial society. I mean, Tau society is still very small in comparison to the Imperium, but their levels of technology are pretty fucking good.
Yeah, then this leads it back to like the... if you hit the PTZ thing right on there, we'll go back to this.
Do you have some Rakeland flesh?
You know I don't.
I knocked this over about 6 months ago.
I've got like some contrasts which are like Gulliman and Fire Slayer Flesh. That's cool, man.
Get in there. I think that's the way forward.
So Alex is painting up his in a slapdash method, which is like prime, dry brush, contrast, dry brush, final wash.
Yeah, very, very easy, basic stuff. It's like a good way to get a lot of detail out.
Yeah, and I'm sort of just kind of like, I primed these ages ago, and I did them in 2 colours of blue and orange, which is Talite Ochre, and then some inks that I sprayed in from the top. And I'm just trying to line work, and there's so much line work, and I'm not even being careful anymore. I'm just like, just get them done. At this point,
I'm the same at this point.
But so the Tower are a threat, and most of the time it's a kill on sight because I believe as they're expanding, the humans are like, no, just fucking put them down now. They're too much of a threat, or they're going to be a threat. But we've also got everything else to deal with, so you know. And any human world that's basically on the fringes that have met them, they're either exterminatus or re-indoctrination into the Imperium of Man. that's the Tau. We might have to go into next week talking about the rest of the factions, because we're coming up on 2 hours here. It depends how long you want to keep going for, really.
I probably can't stay around too long.
No, but, I mean, you've got like a real job. I do this.
Plus my dog's...
My wife will look after your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Tau. They are Gundam suits in our galaxy, and they're a problem because they've got really good technology, and it's a kill-on-sight thing, and Mechanicum hates them.
Yeah.
Who's next?
I guess the Votan. I guess we'll try and briefly gloss over them, or do you want to do that next week?
I want to go back to the Emperor's Plan B, so I think I'm going to talk about Chaos.
Yeah.
So when we say Votan, we're talking about space dwarves, and they are part of the Imperium.
No.
No, so they're not part of the Imperium. No. I'll shut up. I thought they were, because it's something you told me a long time ago. They are space dwarves, and they've got good technology, and we'll get to them, I think, next week.
Yeah,
because
they're quite a very the most recent race to be part of the universe, basically.
Yeah, because they're not in the narrative yet. They're just in the.
I don't think they're actually. No, I don't think I have any books yet.
No. So, Chaos. Now, last week we covered the Emperor of Man and his plan of getting people to the webways, and how he basically is now stuck on the Golden Throne as a psychic shield to stop chaos coming through. These demons from the layer of hell breaking through Earth through his own laboratory, and basically destroying mankind via the Emperor. However, some of the Space Marines that fought for Horus in the Heresy turned and ran and turned to Chaos, and now the Chaos Gods are sort of in control of them and their Primarchs. So we need to look at the Chaos Legions, and we need to talk about why they're a threat to mankind, what they're trying to do, and how the Emperor's trying to deal with them.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off with I think they're called the Black Legion, and they are the remnants of the Lunar Wolves, which pre-Heresy they were called the Lunar Wolves, and that was Horus's Legion. And during the Heresy, they changed their name to the Sons of Horus, I think. Is that right? Yeah, sure.
Sure.
And now that Horus has been vanquished, Horus's first captain, I believe he's called Ezekiel Abaddon.
Abaddon Black! I know that paint!
Yeah, that's how it comes from. So he has now taken the mantle of War Master.
Oh!
Yeah, but he's the one responsible for leading these crusades, the Black Crusades.
Yeah, that we spoke about at the start of the episode.
Yeah, and I think like there's the 13th Black Crusade is the one that is finally making progress. Well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. So basically, when we talk about Crusades as an overview, every now and again, after several thousand years, Chaos tries to send an entire fleet out of the warp.
Yeah.
Through the Eye of Terror, or just in general, popping out everywhere, and tries to just destroy everything.
Yeah.
Altogether.
Yeah.
And kill humanity and carry on trying to get rid of the Emperor. So the Crusades are going on, and there are these all different factions of chaos.
Yeah.
And I guess, I suppose the importance of time in the warp matters here.
So this is where it's gonna be kind of
it's gonna be a mindfuck.
Yeah. So time and space isn't really a thing in the warp, because it's not really governed in the same sense as physics is.
Like linear time for us is not a thing in the warp.
Yeah. So I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah. So where am I going with this?
Well, I guess an example is from what you were saying before to me was that like you can go into the warp.
Yeah.
You could get
that's right. Yeah.
You could get like a message from a system that's like Tyranids are coming. They've just destroyed the system over. We've managed to get a ship out of there. They're coming for this world now.
Yeah.
You've got 3 weeks to get here.
Yeah.
They send a legion of Space Marines to go protect them. They jump into the warp. They come out 3 months later on the other side.
That's right.
Or they come out 3 months before it on the other side.
Yeah.
Because linear space and time will give you what we've got on our side, but in the warp it's like, well, you've got a rough guess of where you're going. These psychers the astral navigators need to kind of get you there, but it could still be random in the sense of time.
If you lose track of where you're going in the warp, you are fucked. You may. I think there's an account of an imperial fleet or an imperial naval vessel coming out into real space 800 years later. So they come back into real space, and they're like, shit, what the fuck is this? And the Chronostrife. We need to talk about that one day. Sorry, I'm digressing a million miles a second.
That's all right. I'm going to pull you back. So this kind of like dilation of time which we get from traversing the warp means that we struggle as humanity and anybody who uses the warp to get about, but Chaos doesn't.
Yeah.
Chaos basically goes into the warp and goes, all right, well, we're going to wait 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we're going to send another fucking fleet out.
Yeah.
So they're just constantly barraging us, but actually...
In real space, it's like
5,000
millennia.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can go in there and just rejuvenate and then come back out, basically.
Yeah. I guess, like... And I kind of digressed quite early in the episode, but I was talking about faith being a weapon.
Yes.
So the Emperor is now jacked up in the warp because of this religion in his name that has given him this... It's made him even more so a presence in the warp. And now he's being able to take on Chaos, like...
The actual, like, Chaos gods.
Yeah, yeah. And this is very much a part of the current narrative, is we don't actually know what is happening to the Emperor. We know that he may be waking up.
Oh, okay.
He may be able to take on the gods themselves.
So is this like he now has enough power that Chaos is just trying to send through a load of forces to disrupt him and give him like distractions because the 4 Chaos gods are like fighting him in the warp and he's just like, fuck off!
And he's apparently he's constantly fighting the forces of Chaos in the warp. Not really in terms of like a physical, but like his psychic might, his psychic potency being amplified. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Where was it going with this?
So, we're talking about Chaos and how they're a threat to mankind.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, this is like the ultimate threat that the Emperor was trying to stop.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not really a case of what they're doing about it, because it's like, we go back to the Inquisition that we spoke about at the start of the episode.
Yeah.
They are just trying to, you see Chaos, it's eradicated.
Yeah.
If you are touched by Chaos or near Chaos, you're dead.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, so how are they going about that? And like, what's the Emperor's interpreted plan through the Ecclesiarchy and through all the Space Marine chapters that originally had like all of these like, you know, Primarchs are like, no, he's not a god and you'll follow this, and now they're like, but the Emperor, he's a god!
Yeah. So, I don't actually know the answer.
Good answer.
Yeah, because it's all about conjecture at this point. Like, we don't know what is happening in the current narrative.
Yeah.
So we don't actually know, and this isn't, well, this is partly me being ignorant, but this is also, we don't know what the Emperor is working on.
So just like the webways before, where he was like,
he's
Horus, you're in charge, Daddy's going home for a bit.
We know he has a plan B, we just don't quite know what that is. Because it's unfolding, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
and like part of that is things like, what's that that key? That like in the fucking most extreme turn of events, use this.
Oh, the Terminus Decree.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Terminus Decree, I think it's kind of been largely discussed during the Horus Heresy. Spoilers, by the way. Shall I say what it is?
Yeah, please
So
go.
I think the Terminus Decree is a failsafe that if the forces of Chaos break through the webway, so say the Emperor is no longer able to keep them at bay.
Yeah.
He fails, they come through. The Terminus Decree is a failsafe. I believe it's either Earth is completely destroyed, so like, now nobody gets it, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's also could be a Dark Age of technology weapon. It's like basically...
Golden Age.
Golden Age, yeah. Dark Age, Golden Age. It's called the Dark Age as well because we don't quite know what the...
Oh, because looking back on it, it's dark.
Yeah, there's no real fact or anything like that. It's not recorded. So there's a weapon in the Horus Heresy that's spoken of, which may be part of what the Terminus Decree is. And this weapon goes after gene sequences, particular gene sequences. So if you were to trigger this weapon, all Space Marines across the galaxy, across the board, good or bad, are just outright killed.
Kind of like you did to his Thunder Warriors.
Yeah.
But like this is like a more...
This is like a press the button and go.
So is that a canon thing, or is this a
So this is canon. Yeah, we think this is the part of the Terminus Decree, but I think most of the Terminus Decree is the destruction of Earth itself.
And why is that the plan B? Why is that Terminus Decree basically like, well, I'm not quite dead yet. I'm still sort of fighting as a psychic entity.
Yeah.
Why are they not saying, well, let's just do plan B now? Or do we not know?
We don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to find an answer. Perhaps I just don't know it. I don't know. There probably is one, but I don't know.
Fair enough. If you don't know, you don't know.
Very entertaining.
Yeah. Alex is off the show, everybody. He doesn't know the answer to absolutely everything from 60-something books.
Yeah.
And if you can give us quotes and things in there, and no, I'm kidding.
If you have any questions, by the way, please shout, and I will do my best and not answer them.
Just say I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
So the Terminus Decree basically is the plan B, but we don't know what it is.
It's part of, well, it could be a plan C, a plan D. I think the plan B, my guess is that the Emperor gained enough power within the warp that he's able to kill the Chaos Gods. That's my guess. Or one of my guesses.
Would that be the end of the game, though?
Possibly. But this may come out, there's probably another 50 years of this.
I was going to say, because I suppose like the be-all end-all here is that like, this is a game.
Yeah.
This is a game, a tabletop game that, people sling dice at each other and we... you and I haven't played a game since I was 14, I think I was.
Yeah.
And, I know that I'm going to wait till 10th edition and you're going to teach me because to be honest, I'm learning Legion at the moment and I'll teach you that.
Yeah.
To which end, there is a Legion stream later this week where I'll be showing you how to do Geonosian bases. I haven't worked out what day that's on yet and I will put up a post about it whenever.
Cool.
So I guess that like this Terminus Decree is... I guess you're saying is we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, did it come about because in the books it's like, this is from the Emperor, if I'm ever dead?
I think during the Siege of Terror there had to be some sort of final, okay, all is lost, this is what we're doing. And this is probably basically like the destruction of Earth. Another plan B is the Emperor becomes a Chaos God himself.
Wow.
And is able to govern humanity through some means or another. I didn't actually touch on this, but the reason the Emperor wants to do away with chaos is because the forces of chaos, they govern the human race. Like, you talk about like entropy and death and rebirth and like things like...
well, most humans I know are scared of death. That's a negative thought.
Yeah, and excess and these terrible actions manifesting in the warp. If these chaos gods weren't there, just imagine the potential of the human race. And that's when I talk about the... I'm trailing off a million miles a second, sorry.
I'm going to bring you in like 3 minutes.
Oh,
cool!
Accident.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So which one's this? The
That's a gene stealer with a human skull.
So, do you want to put on the PTZ? Yeah. So Alex has made some kit bashing mods to his gene stealers. And he's taken his box of skulls. I will remove some towel drones. And he has
shake your hands.
applied... if you stand up, there's actually
that's probably going to be way
an
easier.
angle you'll see.
There you go. Bollocks.
He's applied some of the human skulls in place of the Gene Stealer heads to give it more of that like Dead Space slash just like that Carnomorph from Nemesis, that like gruesome to it. And I think it's just badass. That's really cool.
I've got a bigger one here, which is...
I think that I love the fact that you've just made them gory. Because like, I love seeing colourful Tyranids, and I think that for me, if I was to paint some, it would be fucking neons. And
obviously that's very unfinished, but that's kind of like the base colours done.
That's cool though, isn't it?
I'm obviously going to give that maybe an accent on the carapace, that kind of thing.
That's very cool. But zoom. Dan Trek wants to zoom in on this one or back, because that could be a few seconds ago. Let's zoom in. Yeah. Look at my horned tongue and my slicey fingers.
Maybe I can put like a little one next to him.
Yeah, go for it. But like, I love that contrast paint is coming through like that. Over that. So, I mean, you just dry brushed over. You did Chaos Black Primer. You then dry brushed some white, and then you.
I was going to do Skeleton Horde, but I think the the Rakeland Flesh Shade is coming out much better.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
really cool.
And I think you can get like. I think you used it on the D&D mini. You know your frog person? It's the slime technical paint.
Oh, you mean the Ard coat? The one that makes...
Is that what it is?
Oh, you want about the one that made it shiny, or the one with the...
Slime. I think it was on your frog person. It could have been an Ard coat.
Ard coat is basically a...
It's the gloss one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a gloss finish.
I want to kind of do it at the bottom there, so it's kind of like slimy.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. You mean kind of like... Because I use resin on that to make the pool.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so I...
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll show that off later on. But,
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's awesome how you've done that with mostly contrast paints and dry brushing.
Yeah,
that's going to look fucking awesome.
Shit, oh! Let's go.
Gravity!
Ah! Destroyed.
And the tower defeated the Tyranids.
Where's the other one gone? There it is. Still there. Still standing.
Yeah, so I guess to round off the episode, if you want...
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't give a decent answer to what the actual plan B is. I just...
So let's click a button here. So you see where it says intro? Click that eye that's on the right side. Yeah, up.
That one?
Keep going up. Keep going up. Oh, that one. Click that. Hey, we're on this camera now. Cool. It's all us. So,
God, I'm not very good at computers these days.
That's fine. We're learning and teaching at the same time. Obviously, we called this episode, the Emperor's Plan B, and to be perfectly honest, that was because we knew there had to be a plan B, and you were the one that mentioned it, but it is all about hypothesizing from the current narrative.
This narrative is unfolding, and only just unfolding. Like with 9th edition is when it really kicked off. 9th edition came out 3-4 years ago.
And 10th is coming.
10th is coming. 10th is literally around the corner. This narrative, with the current narrative with the Emperor and his new plan, this is only now starting to be...
Yeah, so we look at things like that Terminatus order, Terminatus decree.
Terminus decree.
Terminus decree. Because we don't know if that's like Terminator Space Marines or if that's like Terminus as in like Exterminatus or we know. Yeah, so it's like we don't know what it is, and nobody's really.
Killing the Emperor is another theory. If you were to kill the Emperor, he would be reborn.
Well, Dan F says Plan B sounds like something the Emps made up on the spot when asked the question unexpectedly. Yeah. If you were like the omnipotent ultimate power of the human race, and you were like, I'm going to refocus my camera. There we go. Now we're more. You would be like, there it is. Yeah, if it all went to shit. Yeah. You'd be like.
The only thing I'm going off of is there's this very, very short sentence which the Emperor speaks to Malkador. So I think the webway's lost, and the Emperor is sitting on the Golden Throne before he faces off with Horus.
Yeah, so this is before he's struck down, before he has to go to the throne to survive, and he's about to hand it over to Malkador.
That's right. And Malkador asks, what will you do now? And then the Emperor basically says something to the... what does he say? He says, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll sit down for 10,000 years and 10,000 more.
Oh, so he sort of says, like, this is about to happen. Yeah. I'm about to sit on the throne for a long...
This is the 10,000 years we've just seen. What is the next bit? We don't know.
Right, so that's actually, like, in the actual book, there is a quote that the Emperor says, and it could be foreshadowing, or it could be, like, it's canon until it's not. Yeah. So, it could be a case that, like, they were
like... But this is where the fun begins. It's because, like, you can have your own interpretation of what might happen next.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of what I'm coming to enjoy about the one book I've read with, obviously, like, the Damocles and Farsight, and from what you've told me all about the heresy so far, and... yeah, I think that having that interpretation, like, I really like the idea of things like the Inquisition, who just like are these like zealous, xenophobic people who are like, for the Emperor, you'll fucking die. And then the other side of them, the Xenos ones, go out and like sometimes interact with them. They give rogue traders get warrants that say you may trade with the Tau, you may trade with the Orcs, and bring that stuff back to humanity.
And there's like
AIs. And we won't kill you. Yeah. Yeah! And like, there's a book that I think I heard Luton talking about when you set me off down the road, which was about this one space marine or somebody on a fleet that basically is like, I just work down here in the lower decks, and then like, the other guy gets injured, and he like repairs his like cybernetic eye, and it's like perfect. And they even like go into say like
they reckon it's an
STC in hiding, or something.
Or like a man of iron, man of stone.
Yeah, maybe. Somebody basically an AI intelligence that's like, fuck, I've got to hide among the people, and not be seen. But then he makes friends with like one of the like space marines or like one of the naval captains or something, and then it's just like. Oh, I don't want to see him die.
Makes a perfect bionic eye in like 5 hours with like scraps.
Yeah, which the Empire has like never done. Yeah. No bionic eye is like this perfect. He's like, hang on a minute, the fuck, and nobody ever sees him again. Yeah. He's like hides somewhere else in the ship and stuff. And these ships are fucking huge. And we'll get onto like
kilometers long.
Yeah, and like so we're talking like Super Star Destroyer size for the Star Wars buffs.
Yeah.
And so I guess we'll talk about fleets and stuff later on. I guess, what do you want to talk about next week? Is there anything that people left in the chat want to see us talk about next week? Because obviously, we're going to carry on for a little bit about the rest of the races, because we've spoken a bit about like how Chaos, we start with Chaos and the Emperor, and we've come back to that. We still need to talk about Primarchs.
The different
but
Primarchs.
What are the other races that we need to talk about?
Votan,
so the Space Dwarfs.
Yeah, we can talk about the Dark Eldar in more detail.
Yes, I think we should talk about them, because that leads us back into Chaos as well, and back to the Emperor.
Eldar.
But then I think we need to start going off across the galaxy, really. And I think I'd like to certainly look at things like technology, and I'd like to look at how certain civilizations traverse the galaxy, because I love the idea of those...
you want to get to the meat of it.
Yeah, the craft worlds, because like these are like...
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, civilizations on a fucking ship. And if you have ever...
Like continent-sized ships that just house this Eldar...
race.
Ecosystem.
Yeah.
Race, yeah.
So for those of you who know Starfinder and know me and know that I'm into Starfinder, this was something that they, I think, have lent on with certain species and ships. And they have like entire like Shirin races on like a craft. It looks like a craft world and how it's designed, or like the Kasatha have like this entire space station, which is a planet basically. It's like it's really cool, and I think that was definitely we need specific information on the Space Dwarfs' usage of trains.
Trains.
I don't understand that either. I was hoping you would laugh and then say something.
I kind of get where you're going with it, but not really.
Who is the actual hammer? Who has the actual hammer? Correct. Who has the hammer? That's what we're fighting over, basically. Is like
what, the Warhammer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like Thor's hammer.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I guess like we'll finish off some of the races.
We'll talk about Warhammers because they actually are a weapon in the universe, of course, but they have like the force of like lightning on their.
Oh, so is that like a Psyker thing? Is it like psychic immune weapons?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It could just be a power weapon, something like that. But I think Warhammer is more like the general sort of collective term.
Well, yeah, it kind of would be. So I think
who has the Starfinder?
The Starfinder Society. Oh, boom. Yeah, exactly. It's a society. It comes from Pathfinder, who are the Pathfinder Society. Yeah, there you go. And we'll be doing a campaign of that real soon. To which end, then we'll probably leave it there tonight. And what we'll do, guys, in chat is we'll drop out of into the outro video. We'll stop recording, then we'll come back in and just say goodbye and stuff. So, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Do all the usual stuff.
Thank you very much.
Any questions for
Hopefully
Alex?
I was not as useless as I thought I was.
You always think you're useless, and you're really not. Yeah, any questions or anything you want to see, just let us know, and we'll try and pull the information out of Alex. And I guess until next time, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, we'll see you again real soon.
Like doing this. I just like talking about the hobby. Yeah. Not really expecting much out of this other than just have fun.
Well, I'll put a link to your Instagram, which is adeptus.pizza, into the description below, and then we will. You can find him there, really. Cool. To which end, if you hit on the far left-hand side the outro.
That one.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
We'll be back in chat in a minute.
See ya.